This is Marketing Careers Uncovered, and I'm Dave Hayward. We've had the great pleasure over months and years to speak to loads of different marketers so far, each with their own background, approach, and story to tell. Along the way, we've also ticked a few nationalities off the list: UK, US, India, Australia, and now we're adding Canada to that list. So I'm really delighted to welcome Kyle Hamilton today. He's an agency owner who's really earned his stripes over the last couple of decades, and he's had about as unconventional a route to marketing as you can get. So if you're worried about not having everything figured out, feeling like you might have stalled a little bit, or are thinking about making big changes in your career, there's plenty that you'll get from this conversation. So Kyle, why don't you just give us a little bit on who you are, what you're up to at the moment?
Sure. My name's Kyle Hamilton. I am the owner of a boutique marketing agency based in Fernie, British Columbia. We focus on helping small and medium-sized businesses develop marketing strategies to really attract their ideal clients, work through both digital and more traditional marketing channels, and really, just here to support small businesses with all things marketing.
And what kind of clients do you work with? Can you use a little bit of the flavor of that?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've been working hard on myself over the last little while is trying to niche down, trying to specialize a little bit more in the type of client. I've worked with everything from a consultant doing HR for dental clinics to engineering firms that work on multi-million, billion-dollar projects. Fortune 1000 companies to ice cream shops down the street. So it's a pretty vast array of industries and business sizes that we've worked with. But I'm really trying to streamline that down to small companies who are struggling to break through the next level, the next revenue goal. Ideally that's kind of $500 to $1.5 million of revenue, and they're trying to grow.
So it's that out of startup and into scale up and beyond. So it's professionalizing approaches, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, very much so.
And Fernie, British Columbia. So you're nestled right in the Rockies. So I'm picturing sort of little ski chalets and slopes and stuff. What does a typical day in the life look like for you, both agency life and just where you're living?
That really kind of depends on the season. You're right. I do live in the heart of the Rockies. I moved here for a skiing lifestyle a number of years ago, but it's winter outside right now. There's snow on the ground, so typically I'll start my day pretty early, 6:30, 7 a.m. Answering emails, getting my team organized for the day, firing off emails to clients, and then I try to get up to the ski hill for an hour or so every morning. Go do a couple runs, get some fresh air, get a little exercise, come back, see what's happened while I've been away from my desk, and again, fire off some emails, put out fires, that sort of thing. From there, it's usually kind of late morning to early afternoon. I work with clients all around the globe, all different time zones. Kind of find my 10:30 to 2:30 is typically the ideal time for most people in other time zones to have meetings. So try to schedule client meetings over my lunch hour-ish. And then afternoons, I spend my afternoons working on my own business, doing business development for a couple hours, and then it's family time. Chauffeuring my daughter to her activities and cooking dinner for my wife and daughter, and all those other fun things about life.
I'm insanely jealous on two fronts. One, the fact that you just get to pop out, I'm going to go and do a couple of runs in between everything else. And the fact that you seem to have got a really good balance and cadence between all those different competing priorities. I'm sure it wasn't always like that, but I'm insanely jealous.
It definitely hasn't always been like that. It certainly still isn't always like that. There are days where there are certainly competing priorities in my mind and in my clients' minds and in my family's mind, and it's always a juggling act. But yeah, I can literally leave my desk here and be sitting on a ski chair, lift chair in 15 minutes, 18 minutes, depending on traffic. So it's I hate to use the term, but it's a blessed life.
Very much sounds it. What are you enjoying most about running your own agency?
Well, running my own agency, first off, the flexibility we were just talking about, having that flexibility to set my own hours, to not really be answering to anybody else but my clients, but my wife and daughter. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. The other thing, business wise, that I've really been enjoying is watching a couple of our new clients start to actually implement the strategies as we've laid them out for them, and watching them see the results. Seeing the look of shock and amazement on their faces when they're like, "Huh, this thing actually works. These strategies actually work. We're getting calls, we're getting inquiries, our business is growing." Um, that for me is amazing. To see other people actually starting to succeed and starting to be able to live the lives that they want to be able to live, for the reasons why they got into running their businesses, and seeing that, seeing what I've kind of learned about being an entrepreneur and being a business owner, and starting to see that wheel click in other people's people's lives is amazing.
And what about on the other side of the coin? What are the challenging bits aren't pretty, but you have to grapple with nonetheless?
Um, I think the most challenging thing that I've been seeing and thing that I've been feeling kind of most challenging over the last little while is the online environment. A lot of small businesses have relied on social media. Quite frankly, social media has gone down a toilet bowl, and I don't see it coming back to what it once was. Social media has changed so much in the last 5 years, let alone the last 10. When I really started diving into it, um, I struggle to advise people to spend any time on social media for their business, just because it is such a toxic environment and not good for anybody's mental health. But the flip side to that is, keeping on top of all of the other changes that are happening in the online environment. Be they algorithms from search platforms, um, be they privacy regulations across all the jurisdictions. Um, it's just really, you got to be on it, and it's a challenge to be on it. Any single individual trying to do that and run their business, I can't imagine how you would do it.
Yeah, you've really got to be plugged in for 24/7 just to tread water
Yeah,
these
yeah,
days.
and I think, one thing that I've learned through my journey is, we all just need to, like, go outside and touch grass. I know that's kind of become a bit of a pejorative term to tell people to get offline, but how amazing it is to actually disconnect for a while, and go and live in the real world. It'll do wonders for both your mental health, both your physical health, and um, your business.
I mentioned at the beginning you probably got one of the more unconventional routes that I've come across. You originally planned to be a neurosurgeon. What happened?
Oh, what happened? Life, growing up. But yeah, that's true. When I grew up in a family of doctors, family of medical professionals. Um, Both of my grandpas were MDs. On my dad's side, you can trace the family tree. There's been an MD, back going something like 7 or 8 generations. All through high school, elementary school, I planned on going to medical school. I had mapped it out when I was in, I think, grade 11 or 12. Like, I could be a neurosurgeon by the time I was 32, I think. I completed all my residencies and be doing neurosurgery at that young age already. And then I got to university. I was pretty young when I started university. I was only 17. I very quickly realized there's way more out there than just sitting down at a desk and studying. Um, you know, you don't need to get into a professional degree program as soon as possible. There's other things you can do with your life. Um, when I was 16, I was very fortunate. Grade 11, was able to go on an exchange. Our high school system, where I was growing up in Saskatoon, had an exchange program to Tours, France, and so was selected to go on that 3-week exchange. Made a couple amazing friends while I was there from the same city. Funny thing, you have to go all the way across the world to meet some people from just across your relatively small Canadian city. We basically became best friends and decided we were all going to go traveling after high school. But like I said, I was still only 17 when I finished high school, went straight to university. But we made a pact that we were going to go for that summer after our first year, go spend 4 months there. Plan was to get some jobs, work in France, spend 4 months there. I had the idea and goal. I was going to get a job in, retail clerk or front of house in a restaurant, bussing tables, waiting tables, because I was fluently bilingual.
So you knew French so you could speak French before you went over.
In Canada, in a lot of places, we've got what's called a French immersion program. So both my parents are Anglophones. My dad was actually born in Northern Ireland. My mom's English Canadian. But we have a program where you start right from kindergarten and everything is in French. I could read and write in French before I could in English. So yeah, I was fluent. I was bilingual. Um,
I'm just about managing English here.
yeah, but yeah, so get to France and I'm handing out these resumes left, right, and center, and we were there a couple weeks, and I'd probably handed out. Well, I'm sure I had printed off about 100 resumes, and I was down to the last couple. One end of the day, walking up the street back towards where we were staying, and I just walked by this little kind of hole in the wall restaurant. And I was like, what's one more no? Took my resume in, asked for the manager, spoke with him for a couple minutes, um, told him that I was looking for a job, kind of gave him my whole spiel. And he just said, hey, would you be able to come back at like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock tonight? My father's the owner of the restaurant, and I'm sure he would love to have a chat with you. My mood went from like 0 to hero instantly. Went, had a shower, got changed, came back to do this little interview a little bit later. And after having kind of a 45 minutes chat, hour-long chat with these two guys, the dad says, right, so when do you think you can start? And I was kind of like, oh, cool. Tomorrow, I guess. I really have nothing planned. And he's like, well, if you can come in on Monday, I'll get you working in the kitchen. And I was kind of like, hold on a sec. I wasn't, maybe my French isn't as good as I thought it was. I'm not applying for a job in the kitchen. Like, I'm applying for a front of house job. I don't know how to cook. I had to basically learn how to boil an egg to come on this trip so that I could survive.
So what did you say to him for 45 minutes to all of a sudden be promoted to kitchen staff?
I don't know. I mean, he was asking me about, what I was studying, what my plans were. Told him about like this idea of going and becoming a brain surgeon, and I was wanting to travel and work in France for a couple of months, just kind of get away from Canada, grow up a little bit, all this stuff. And yeah, so he just kind of,
And that just screamed chef
well,
to him.
yeah, he was like, yeah, I'll get you working in the kitchen. You'll be in charge of our pastries, desserts, salads, and pizzas. And I was just like, I can probably handle the salads because that doesn't involve heat. But okay. I don't know if I can do this. And he basically just said, hey, you've shown that you have some level of aptitude, let's call it. You're 18 years old, you've flown halfway around the world, you're applying for jobs in a language that isn't your mother tongue. Um, you've clearly got a couple brain cells between your ears to rub together. So if I can't teach you what I need to teach you, fine, I'll fire you. But until that time, like, let's just go with this. And that's really kind of become a bit of a life mantra for me. Is I can teach myself, I can learn something myself. Let's just go for it. And yeah, I did. It was an amazing summer. I ended up, well, to this day, my dad loves telling the story that I'm the only 18-year-old he's ever heard of who's called home to ask how to send money home, not how to send money to me. I'd managed to make enough money, save enough money that I sent home a couple $1,000, and then traveled around the rest of Europe for another 4 months on what I still had in cash on me. So, yeah, it was a fantastic thing and life altering journey.
So we're still light years away from anything resembling marketing or running an agency. So after that experience, what happened? What happened next? What else were you see? You clearly didn't become a neurosurgeon.
No, I clearly didn't. You know, I came back from that trip, went back straight back to university, and within like 3 weeks of being home, I was feeling the reverse homesickness. I was like, okay, I've been home now. I want to get back traveling. Um, Lo and behold, walking down a hallway in the university, and there's this big poster that says, "Do you want to travel? Do you want to study abroad? Come apply for our university exchange program." So I did. I applied. I ended up going to Sweden for 6 months to work on my studies, and came back from that trip and graduated. Finished a degree. Had finished a degree in biology by that time. Still had the travel bug. Bought a plane ticket, went to New Zealand for a year and lived in New Zealand, bought a van, cruised around, was a surfer bum for a year, and finished that trip. Decided I wasn't going to come straight back to school. I actually moved here to Fernie. I wanted to do a winter season, being a lifty, being a dishwasher, doing that whole, I think it was 19, 20 at the time. So still quite young, wanted to be a bit of a dirtbag. That winter it actually rained more than it snowed here in Fernie. The job I had, I got laid off for 3 weeks because of the weather. I was working at a backcountry ski lodge. They couldn't have guests up because of the ski quality. So I went back to school, finished a second degree, and decided, maybe it's time to get on with into the real world. Applied for law school, got accepted to a couple law schools. Thought, I'm not going to be a medical professional. Let's go get a professional degree in law, and was actually heading over to Europe to do that. Wanted to get into mergers and acquisitions, finance, that side of the law, and then called my boss up here.
Why that?
Um, a lot of it, I think, was to do with the financial aspect of it. You can make a lot of money doing mergers and acquisition, doing corporate finance law, and that just kind of seemed, as I grew up and as I reflect back on it, that was just kind of the cultural implications of my upbringing. I had a couple uncles who were lawyers as well, so it was just like, yeah, okay.
So from one potential prestigious, high-paying job to another prestigious, high-paying job.
Yeah, yeah. To be perfectly honest, I don't know as there was a whole lot of a thought process in how or why I would make that leap. It was just, this is what you was expected. If you're not going to become a doctor, um, I definitely don't have the math skills, if you will, or the desire to sit in front of spreadsheets and such to be an accountant or an engineer. Nothing against them. My brother's an engineer. My mother's an engineer, but that just wasn't my bailiwick. So yeah, law seemed like the almost the easy route then. But I I had everything set to go over to Europe to do law degree. Called my boss that I had here in Fernie and just said, "Hey, I'm looking for like 8-9 weeks worth of work before I go away. Any chance you might have something?" And she said, when can you start?" I had done all my first aid tickets, so I was level 3 first aider, meaning occupational first aid. Um, she reminded me that I had those first aid tickets and said, we need somebody to live up at the lodge as the overnight caretaker and first aid attendant. Um, we pay $75 a night. You get free accommodation. Anytime you're on shift, we'll feed you. So, as someone who's trying to save money before going away to law school, this was like the dream job. I was going to have minimal expenses and getting paid to sleep with a radio beside my head, essentially. So did that, and yeah, very very quickly when I got back to Fernie, realized, you know what, I want to go do law degree. I wanted to go do this medical degree. I wanted to go do these professional designations so that I could come and spend my 2, 3, 4 weeks a year of vacation in a place like Fernie, um, where I can wait, where I could alternatively just figure out how to get a job here, make a living here, and every day's a vacation, essentially. Um, and yeah, that really led me to becoming a professional photographer, led me to managing hotels, and all that kind of segued into getting into marketing.
When you said photographer, I'm now starting to make the connection. Tell us a little bit about that. What were you doing there? It's a yet another leap, isn't it? It's another
Yeah,
new thing that you haven't really done before.
yeah. So it's kind of that cliched journey into photography. Before my first trip to France, my parents had an old point and shoot that they let me take with me. I really enjoyed taking cameras when I graduated university and was heading off to um, this first degree and heading to New Zealand. My dad had an old SLR film camera that he's like, "Here, I'm not using this. Go take it with you. It's a great little camera." Taught myself how to shoot film, how to expose, do all that stuff. And when I came back, some friends were looking at photos. They just had a baby. Like, "Hey, maybe you'd be interested in taking some family photos of us." And that snowballed into me starting to shoot weddings and portraits. Living out here in Fernie, one of the things that I kind of had a secret desire to become was an action sports photographer, taking pictures of people skiing and biking and all that sort of stuff. Lo and behold, I kind of put my mind to it, and a couple of years later, I was getting paid to do ski photography. I was getting paid to shoot weddings. I was getting flown around the world. Um, I balanced my time. Summers were shooting weddings, winters were shooting ski photography, and through that, I was shooting for different clients, some cat skiing and heli skiing operations, and realized, I'm creating these good images, some really great imagery for them, but I wasn't seeing them being used very well or at all. And so that really started me into the route of, okay, we're creating these images for their marketing, but they're not using them very well, or like I see other businesses using their imagery. I need to teach myself more about marketing so that I can help guide these clients in how to use their images better to market their businesses better. And one thing led to another again, and sitting there learning about SEO, learning about social media, search engine optimization, learning about social media, learning about print layouts and designs. And suddenly, not only am I creating the content for these clients, but I'm also helping them create strategies and campaign plans and all of that, which is what really led me into setting up my own agency.
So how did you practically start going about learning what all this marketing jazz is about? Did you ever feel at a bit of a disadvantage having such a different background and getting into marketing perhaps through necessity, through other things that you're doing, versus going, I want to be a marketer?
To the idea of like feeling at a disadvantage, to this day, I still feel imposter syndrome. I still, I'll write a strategy for a new client and be like, huh, this part of it seems so simple to me. I'm like, this just makes so much sense, but why would they believe me? Because I don't have a marketing background. I don't have a degree in marketing. I haven't worked at a big agency ever myself. But then I kind of fall back on this notion of, I can teach myself anything. I know that when I put my mind to something, it gets done. And coming full circle to the start of our conversation, to what I've really been enjoying the last little while is seeing how these strategies actually work and seeing clients implement them. It working. To your question though about how did I teach myself this? We live in the 21st century. Everything you need to know is online. Everything you could ever want to know is online. So, did I spend 4 years sitting in classrooms getting an education in marketing? No. I'm always reading. Always reading. Doesn't matter if it's a magazine or a book or a blog. Going online, searching things out specifically that I'm the challenges that I'm facing, there's a solution online. You just got to go find it. I've done a few MOOCs, massive online open online courses. Like Coursera or Creative Live is another great resource. And if any of your listeners or followers have tried that, fantastic free learning from some of the top entrepreneurs, artists, digital creatives in the world. That's fantastic. And yeah, just kind of this mantra. If you can't find it online easily, you probably shouldn't be learning it. And to what my boss back in that restaurant all those years ago said, if I can't figure it out quickly, then I'll just get fired. And if a client hires me to do something and I can't figure it out quickly, they're just going to fire me. But I don't think that has ever actually happened.
So be a sponge, don't get fired. I think we've got the
Yeah,
makers of a really good T-shirt there.
there you go. If you want to distill it down to a nice T-shirt slogan, that's I think exactly it.
Thinking back then, what's the success that you're most proud of, and perhaps also your biggest learning experience?
Um, it's kind of sounds cliched and cheesy, but I think the success that I'm most proud of is my family. My wife and I, we've been married now for 13 years. We have a very curious, very witty, shockingly articulate 11-year-old daughter. And being able to have established myself and built a life where I can raise my daughter and we can live in a place like Fernie. I'm not shy about saying that's an accomplishment. There's lots of people who wish they could live here and for whatever reason can't or don't or won't.
Is she good on the slopes as well?
Oh, she's she doesn't like skiing, but when she doesn't, rather, let me rephrase that. She doesn't like going skiing or going biking or going hiking, or she doesn't like, she's a typical 11-year-old. She doesn't want to leave Minecraft, her devices, but once she's out there, yeah, she can ski better than I could when I moved to Fernie. Um, so yeah, I think she's probably going to end up very spoiled in that regard. But yeah, as far as my biggest learning experience and whatnot, I think it's really been my pursuit of the entrepreneurial dream. Um, every day as an entrepreneur is a new challenge. Every day you're facing a new set of issues, a new set of challenges, problems to solve. And so whether it's been, you know, setting up my portrait and framing studio as a photographer, successfully selling that, launching a tech startup, trying to develop a safety training platform for high risk work environments that failed, got nowhere. You know, every endeavor, every business opportunity, every project that I've taken on has built on lessons that I've learned in the previous ones, and really helped guide me to where I am now.
But I think from what I've gathered, you've course corrected quite quickly. You've zigged and zagged, and you've not spent years agonizing over it. You've gone, okay, I want to do this, I want to get there. Okay, I'm going to go over there. What does it take to get there? Okay, I need to plug this gap, this gap, this gap. And whether you do it consciously or not, there's a starting point and a destination in mind, and I've just got to point myself that
Yep,
way.
yep.
I'll get there.
That's pretty accurate. In early in my entrepreneurial career, but it wasn't that early. I was working with a business coach, and one of the things that she really helped me articulate and solidify, kind of what you just said there, is this idea of fail fast and fail often. It's way better to fail fast and realize what doesn't work than to sit there and try and plod through a problem or keep going in one direction that has no end in sight, that isn't going in the right direction. So if you think that this is where you want to go out and do it. Learn if it's possible, learn if you can do it, and if you can't, then yeah, you can course correct. You can figure out what the next direction is, what the better direction might be.
Yeah, just start is what we're
Exactly.
is what we're really saying, isn't it? Just start.
Yeah, yeah. You can waste a lot of time.
And what's next for you then? What's the next thing that you're aiming for?
What I'm really aiming for this year, business wise, is to grow my business. We business had a lot of success when we launched. COVID hit, the business really contracted. I had a few personal issues that kind of pulled me away from focusing on the business. It was really kind of just survival mode for a couple of years there, but now everything's settled out. Things seem to be going smoothly, both in my personal life and globally. But living in Canada, the political climate right now and the news cycle is always a little bit treacherous with tariffs and what's happening to our neighbors to the south. Nobody really knows what's happening, but again, that's one of those things I can't control. So I'm going to prepare for it, but I'm not going to stress about it. I would love to onboard 2 new clients a month for this year. I've kind of written down a goal of 25, 26 new clients in 2025. Already onboarded 4, so we're making great headway. But I'd love to just kind of keep that momentum going in 2025 and into future years.
Well, fingers and toes crossed for you on that front, but it sounds like you're well along the well underway already. And so finally, just to as we come to the end of our time, I guess thinking about giving career advice to someone looking to get ahead, what would your advice be to someone?
We've touched on this, but it's not something that anyone's actually told me, but I think something that I've just kind of experienced and figured out for myself. And that's don't wait for ideal conditions or the ideal time. If you've got an idea, just go do it. You want to get it. You want to get into photography. You can't afford to buy a camera. Okay, take on a second job. Go wash dishes for 6 months. Save up all that money to afford the camera. Don't have time? How much time are you spending sitting inanely scrolling social media, sitting binge watching TV series? Get up 60 minutes earlier each day. Start doing it if every morning. Build those habits. Start small. Start learning. Start testing, adjusting, pivoting. Grow your style. Grow your perspective. Grow your vision. And making smaller mistakes that you can recover from quickly. It's going to save you from going out there waiting and then making a catastrophic mistake that you might not be able to recover from quickly. So fail fast, fail often, and keep failing forward.
Very good. Okay, thank you ever so much for that. Quite a different conversation from where we usually go sometimes, but I think really, really interesting to hear about. You don't have to have everything figured out. As you say, just get started, be a sponge, don't get fired.
I like that. I might have to go and trademark that before you do.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Kyle, and thanks to you for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe for future updates, leave a review, or share with your friends and colleagues. See you next time.